Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about every single Dungeons & Dragons game you run is important. And if you're a Dungeon Master, you need to learn this lesson, and you need to learn it now, because the best DMs in the world are forgetting it, and they're projecting it to the world that they've forgotten it. It is super important. It is crazy important. You must realize that every single game you run is important. Okay, so let's get into this. The reason we're talking today is the Dungeons & Dragons December 2020 official Dungeons & Dragons official Stranger Things cast Lost Odyssey charity game. It went on. They dumped this thing on YouTube. It just like shot out like a it was so bad. It's a burning dumpster fire. It is a travesty to the D&D community. It's a travesty to the Stranger Things cast. It's a travesty for Chris Perkins. It's a hot mess. And it is a masterclass in 55 different things you cannot do when you run Dungeons & Dragons. Every single dungeon master, every single Dungeons & Dragons player needs to watch this thing immediately and learn the deep-cut lessons this thing carries for how not to run a game, okay? And how not to play, right? So first of all, this is my opinion. I'm just going to say it. I think Chris Perkins did not prepare for this game the way he should have, okay? I think he thought, oh, it's going to be fun. We're going to have some celebrities on. We're going to play a 2-hour game, and it's just going to be nice, and we're going to have fun, and everything's going to be great. It turned into a blazing dumpster fire. It was, what it really is Finn Wolfhard was the problem. Okay, Finn Wolfhard rolled in with this Hollywood attitude from minute one. He was like, I got a flight to Cabo in 15 minutes. What are we doing here? And then really did this Hollywood alpha male thing where he spent the entire 2 hours mercilessly insulting and belittling David Harbour, not in character, but as a person. Right? It was tough to watch, brutal, terrible, and it was the first thing you got to do is you got to have the right people in the game. People don't want to be there, don't bring them there. Right? Like you have to be very careful about who sits at your table, right? Finn Wolfhard should have never been at that table, right? You could have been brought in Bobby Millie Brown. You could have brought in, many other characters, Lucas or, just anybody who wanted to be there. But and the other thing is, this was not a surprise, okay? Finn Wolfhard is a massive Hollywood star. And when he goes into interviews, he does this Hollywood alpha thing that is really astounding, and it's hard to watch, right? And I've seen he did so not only is he routinely very, very rude to David Harbour, and just trying to say, I'm on the rise, you're falling, old man. Which you're like, why? This person's in the same property you're in. What is the point here? Why do you need to spend time belittling him, right? And now, I do know the answer to that. I'm going to give it to you real quick. And then the same thing he did when he was in interviews with It. He did some interviews with Bill Hader, and did these very strange comments like, I had to teach Bill things. I'm like, you're in high school. What are you talking about, right? Now, why does Finn Wolfhard do this? In my opinion, he is a very smart kid. He realizes he has a massive, massive success on his hands, and he wants to be the next Tom Hanks, right? So how does he get there, right? He wants to be a leading man in Hollywood. So how do you get there? Well, who's the role models? Johnny Depp, Brad Pitt, Christian Bale, and Tom Cruise, right? These guys have all written a book. This is how you make it. This is how you become a multi-billion-dollar Hollywood star, and you do it by being super mean to people and breaking a lot of relationships. Every single one of them. Go right down the line. You're going to find multiple broken relationships. You're going to find them cursing at, grips and all kinds of people underneath them on their staffs. Being nice is not valued in Hollywood. And trust and believe, Finn Wolfhard is, projecting, I'm the next Tom Cruise. I'm the next Christian Bale. I'm the next Johnny Depp. I'm the next X, right? And I am here to tell you, I'm huge, you're small. And I couldn't believe how this utterly derailed a charity D&D game, but it did, right? Now, here's the thing. Chris Perkins got caught in the middle of this, but he made some major mistakes as a DM, right? One, every time you step up to the table, you got to, so if you have 4 players, right, just do the math. This is a 2-hour game. That is 8 hours of people's time. You know what 8 hours of Harrison Ford's time does? There's a new thing in Hollywood. You bring a star in for a day for $1 million, right? 8-hour workday, that's $1 million. This was a $1 million game, right? That's 8 hours of true Hollywood celebrity time, right? And so you know what Chris Perkins rolls out for a celebrity game? He pulls out a tired, hackneyed Christmas episode where, like, the Yetis are the elves, and and there's some, Santa Claus stand-in, and literally the story is that they're going to help bring toys to children. I'm like, are you out of your mind? Right? Like, these are Hollywood celebrities. You're bringing them in to play Dungeons and Dragons. Not a video game, not a board game, a highly complex tabletop role-playing game, right? And the reality is, you think this is going to be fun, but the reality is you are presenting the D&D community, you are presenting this game for millions of players, right? And these Hollywood types, they got no respect for nothing, right? Like, they just, they come in, they're used to jet-setting all over the world. They're treated like kings and queens. And the reality is, they're like, oh, what nerd crap am I playing here, right? And by choosing this tired, anachronistic, non-fitting story that was just the laziest writing, right? You fulfill every single negative stereotype of the game the moment they sit down, right? There's a point in the game where David Harbour is like, oh, we're going to save Christmas? Says it with just dripping sarcasm, right? And he should have. It was incredibly lazy on the part of Chris Perkins to bring some nonsense, tired Christmas retread story that every single dungeon designer is like, oh, I know what I could do. I could do a Christmas retread adventure where, some bugbear is Santa, and the elves are just a bunch of goblins, and they're going to steal the village's toys. It's been written by every hackneyed, tired, non-innovative adventure writer ever, right? And I'm like, why are we doing this? The other issue is, why are we doing Christmas episode, right? This is Dungeons and Dragons, right? This is based on Lord of the Rings. Dungeons and Dragons is systemized Tolkien. Even if you don't acknowledge that, it certainly is medieval fantasy, but it's got dragons in it, right? And now the game has gone far beyond that, right? It has tieflings and Asimars and turtles and tabaxis, right? But you're going to go, oh, hey, let's throw in the middle of this Christmas, Christ Mass. I'm an evangelical Christian, right? I don't run Christmas games, right? I'm like, hey, I got 4 players. None of these people are evangelical Christians. None of them care about Christmas, right? Like, it's a very distinct, narrow holiday that's for Christians, right? Like, and none of that fits in the current Dungeons and Dragons game, right? Christianity does not fit into, a Dungeons and Dragons game. And the moment he pulls it out and even said, like, oh, they're dressed in red and green. He didn't even use the Christmas, but he just used the Christmas themes. And they immediately checked out. They're like, oh, I thought this game was going to be stupid. Here it is. Look, it's stupid. It's just tired childhood games, and you're like, oh, come on, man. It's not. Why are you telling Hollywood that our game sucks and that DMs are lazy and trot out tired nonsense, right? It's just like, why, right? Especially when DM's Guild is filled with, like, if you go to MT Black, right, he just released a list of the 20 best adventures on, the 20 very best adventures on DM's Guild, right? Why not just go, and half of them are free, right? Why not just go and get something, right? Don't just trot out whatever, nonsense you scrawled on a napkin. Millions of people are going to see this game, right? And it is just, it hurts my soul that you know, people are going to come see this, not because they care about Dungeons and Dragons, but because Stranger Things. Stranger Things is 100 times larger. Stranger Things is the second largest show on any streaming networks. There are billions of dollars on the line here, right? We have a movie coming out, right? We need to be showing the best aspects of Dungeons and Dragons, not trotting out tired, like, you know, D&D Christmas themed adventures, right? Which are just ad nauseum plopped out like the laziest, most useless, non-representative versions of the game, right? We have a beautiful game, and we have hundreds of pure, dyed-in-the-wool, amazing adventures. Why not run any one of those for them, right? So the other thing is, Chris Perkins gets in the middle of this, and and it's clear that half the people at the table have not even read their sheets. They have no idea what they're doing, right? So Chris Perkins needs to draw them in and get them engaged, right? So Gaten Matarazzo says, oh, you know, I have this character, and the backstory for this character is my entire family was killed by Yetis, right? And it's already clear that Yetis are going to be in the story, right? And Chris Perkins has a Yeti in the story, right? That can talk, right? And that is a crucial character in the story that they need to get like a quest object from and move it to the next marker so they can save the children, you know, save the toys and bring them to the village, right? And you're like, are you kidding me? Like, you're trotting out a Mall Santa story on a game you know is going to get 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million views? It's crazy. It's crazy, right? And like, it's just so heartbreaking to see how this thing turns so south so fast, right? So Gaten Matarazzo says, my character is dyed-in-the-wool, deeply ready to murder the first and every Yeti that gets in front of him. He communicates this to Chris Perkins at the beginning of the game, right? Perkins knows he's got, a creature, a Yeti in the story that is part of them getting the toys to the next adventure spot, and they can't just kill him. They gotta talk with him. They gotta interact with him. They gotta do stuff, right? And sure enough, just like Gaten Matarazzo absolutely calculated, right? Absolutely telegraphed the moment he comes across this quest giver at Gaten Matarazzo. I'm going to murder him. 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 Right? And Natalia Dyer, right, who's playing a rogue, is like, hey, this is a sentient being. You can't just murder him, right? Like, and Gaten Matarazzo, no, he killed my family. I'm going to murder him, right? So now you have the players fighting the players, right? He's supposed to supply the drama and enough action he's supposed to give them their enemies. They're not supposed to find their enemies across the table, right? Failure number 1. This is DMing 101, right? DMing 101, right? And Chris Perkins is not ignorant. He designed half of 5e, right? This is crazy, right? He's a skilled veteran dungeon master, and he can't understand that a character has already telegraphed they're going to murder a quest giver, right? Or like a key NPC who is a puzzle piece to getting the adventure done, right? So what Chris Perkins should have done is, on the fly, he should have, remade him to a humanoid reindeer, right? Or to a gnome, right? That wore all silver, right? Or even, a sentient seal, white furred seal, right? He can't keep him as a Yeti, because this one character is like, the second I see this, all thought goes out, and I'm just going to murder this character. And Natalia Dyer and Gaten Matarazzo spend 10, 15 minutes in the game just fighting over fighting this NPC, right? Completely avoidable, right? And I feel, maybe he just was working on a book or something, but, if people are bringing and say, this is Finn Wolfhard, he's in the next Ghostbusters. Do you know what Ghostbusters is? Ghostbusters is a movie that 1 million people, that 10 million people, 100 million people have seen, right? This kid is positioned to be the next Tom Cruise. Maybe you write an actually good adventure, or if you're too freaking lazy, maybe you go over to DM's Guild and you pick up one of the 20, you know, that MT Black already pointed to and said, these are amazing adventures that are here, right? So to just trot out this incredibly tired, anachronistic, culture-breaking tripe, right, for a game you know is going to get millions of views was lazy and foolish and frustrating, right? I just cannot believe how bad this game went, and at what a horrible, horrible, horrible representation of what our hobby is to a game that they know is going to get an outsized view of viewership. It just is absolutely heartbreaking. Chris Perkins has got to do better, and WotC needs to do better, and Hasbro Gaming needs to do better. This is our game. We're trying to make this so that people want to play this, not so they go, oh, our game is overly complex, overly abstract, and even the best dungeon masters in the world can't bring themselves to write a good adventure and can't make changes on the fly. This game's impossible, right? And this is why we're struggling. This is why we have $100 million a year niche market rather than $1 billion a year incredibly well-respected, healthy, robust market, which is what we should have. This has got to get fixed. It's got to get fixed. When you run your games, make sure you understand every game is important. You are being given people's time. Time is money. You are being given money, time, attention. Like, do something with it, right? Don't laze out. Don't serve up pablum. Don't do a Chris Perkins. That's my opinion. I'm more than willing to hear if I'm wrong on this. If I'm reading this wrong, let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.